Welcome to the live stream, everybody. Getting ready to record episode 22 with Direct Sports Daily. Okay. You ready, Rob?
I'm ready.
Hitting record in 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Direct Sports Daily.
Okay, hold on. That chord, for some reason, is not.
Doing anything now.
Yeah. I did order new chords, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully we will have to deal with this too much longer. It should be here today, actually. Okay.
Oh, that'd be sick.
Let's try this one more time. 3, 2, 1.
You're listening to Direct Sports Daily, your source for a fresh new take on all the latest headlines from the world of sports. And now, here's your host, George Bennett, featuring special guest, ESD lead correspondent, Robert Gluck.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Today is May 2nd, 2017. And today, I'm going to be talking a little NBA and NHL playoffs. Along with the injury to Noah Syndergaard of the Mets. But first, I say we kick things off with a little NBA. So, Rob, did you get to check out any of the games last night?
Yeah, I watched pieces of both of them, and like we talked about, it's hard to get into a lot, but man, it's kind of it's kind of what I expected from both series. I don't know how you thought it'd square up. I mean, you don't call out a 30-point blowout win by Houston, but I definitely thought Houston was going to be a scary team in this series. And man, they shot about 100 threes, and they showed why that I think they can beat almost anybody, because any team that's willing to take that many threes and can hit a decent amount of them on any given night is gonna be almost impossible to beat them in like today's NBA. So
yeah, let's start off with that game, Houston San Antonio. I didn't see this coming at all. Quite frankly, I thought this would be more like the Thunder and Rockets series, where every game and it would be pretty relatively close, but this was just an absolute smackdown by the Rockets. It's hard to believe this could happen to a Greg Popovich coach team in the playoffs, a team with Kawhi Leonard on it in the playoffs.
yeah,
This was an absolute drubbing, and for a team that prides itself on defense, they ended up giving up over 30 points more than they averaged during the regular season. Because I know they averaged less than 100 points against, and to give up 126 is just mind-boggling. It's the same story we've been saying with the Rockets the whole time. There's just too many weapons. You getting contributions out of guys like Clint Capella and Trevor Ariza, who even remembered he was still a thing. And then obviously you got Eric Gordon and Lou Williams, the best backup guard tandem we've probably ever seen. I don't understand this result. I don't think it'll be easy going like this from here on out for Houston. I think Greg Popovich is probably the best coach in the NBA, and he is that for a reason. I think the Spurs will adjust. I still see this series going 7.
Yeah. I really don't know what to make of it as far as the series goes. It's getting harder and harder to look at these games as like someone with basketball knowledge and break them down, because it just doesn't make sense. this is probably by far, I think, all sorts of records fell for San Antonio defensively in the playoffs. I think this is their biggest loss, their biggest halftime deficit, the best shooting 3-point night a team's had against them. So, and that's what Houston has the ability to do. Is they're such an odd team that with really no interior play. It's all about jump shooting and threes, and more than any team, I think, even more than Golden State the last few years, their focus is to get up threes as fast as they can, as much as they can. One funny thing I took from like the post game stuff, I don't know, if you read up on it or heard any, but like Greg Popovich was not like Greg Popovich. When he gets beat, or if he's upset about, even if his team, the Spurs win and he's mad, he comes out firing about things, and he was like joking, kind of had a smile on his face the whole time, like very glib almost. And I think it's because he kind of knows that what he's playing isn't really going to be something he can adjust to. He's going to make some changes probably, but it's going to be more about if Houston can keep shooting like this, you're not going to beat him. You're not going to beat any team shooting 53s if they make 50% of them. Math, it's 75 points just from threes right there, and it's the easiest shot to take. And so I think he's kind of, I think he'll make his adjustments. I think especially offensively, he's going to probably slow it down a little bit, maybe work it into Aldridge a little more in the post, or Kawhi even in the post, and try to get Houston out of their run and up and down flow. And then usually you see teams like Houston struggle in the playoffs because refs let you get more physical with them. Like we saw with Steph Curry last championship series. You grab them a little bit more, you bump a little bit more. In the regular season, that's a foul, so you don't do it. In the playoffs, you're allowed to do that more. So I think they'll get a little more physical maybe with them, and I also think you might see Kawhi a lot more on Harden. I know they don't want to have him on him the whole game because that's not really fair to Kawhi to be the best offensive player for the Spurs and then guard one of the most talented offensive players all game. But I think it's you're going to kind of have to think about doing that because he makes that team. I mean, he didn't score as much as you'd think. We had 14 assists, and those are probably all threes, to be honest. Like at least 7 or 8 of them are threes, if I had to guess, which is just easy money for a Spurs team like this. So if you put Kawhi in him, keep him out of the paint, keep him from getting the other teams going as much, it might help. I think it will go a long ways, but I don't know, man. Like I can't even tell anymore. The NBA is so weird. Like I really couldn't tell you, where this is going.
It's gotten unpredictable, but not in a good way. Like
yeah, absolutely.
Very much so. Like this reminds me of some of the games Toronto dropped to the Bucks, like in the first round, or like that game 3 the Wizards had against the Hawks.
The Hawks.
Like it's such an anomaly. It's hard to find any basis of like analysis on it. Like when you look at this game, you can't really make predictions about the rest of the series because I don't see the rest of the series playing out in any way, shape, or form like this game. Like
no, I don't either.
This is one of those. I think Greg Popovich, and I think you brought up a good point when you mentioned it. I think he's acting in that matter because he knows like this just happens every now and then. Sometimes like you just get the tar beat out of you, and it has nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. Just like, okay, I take the L tonight, and I'll wake up tomorrow hopefully better off. Yeah, I think that's the attitude you just got to take after something like this. And I think the Spurs, out of almost any team in the NBA, is probably the best for this to happen to. I think all of them will handle this about as professionally as one can and recognize this is not who we are and this is not how we play. And moving forward, they're just gonna get back to playing Spurs basketball.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. I think your point, and I think this is probably a much better point that we've made the whole time, is the best team for this to happen to is the Spurs. Even Golden State, I could see this riling them up, getting them off their game, getting them playing even worse. And I just do feel like next game they'll come back and just be steady. And honestly, another strategy it just kind of popped my head, and I was going to get what you think about this is I'm wondering if they'll go to the classic go off James Harden like strategy. Go off James Harden, one-on-one, you do what you have to do, and we're going to lock down these other 5 or 4 guys on the court at any given time. Like, we don't want Clint Capella scoring 20 points. Like, I didn't even know he could score more than his 8 points off of rebounds and a few dunks from, like, I'm wondering if that's a better strategy when you're really dealing with one superstar than a lot of really talented role players, but more role players who, get wide open threes because of people scrambling to get, stay in front of Harden. I don't know. Maybe that's something Greg Popovich will move to. I don't know.
I'm not exactly sure because usually when you make that effort to do a strategy like that, there's a lot less help around that one superstar. Right. And I don't know if committing to trying to shut everyone else down is a viable strategy because there's just so. It's like if you even have one other guy go off along with Harden, it's just over for you.
Yeah, that's true. As I was saying it, because I just saw Clint Capella's like his box score, and I was like, God, you can't let him do that, man. And then as I was about to start listing off the other players, I was like, oh, these are all guys that aren't just spot up shooters for the most part. Most of them are people that can do their own dribble shot.
It's like, okay, you take away Capella, you take away Ariza, you take away Anderson, and then all of a sudden Pat Beverly and Eric Gordon are going off with Harden, and it's like, you can only do that with teams where the supporting cast is a lot weaker, and I don't know, I don't think that's something that can be done with the Rockets. So
honestly, you're right. As I said it, and then once you started talking, you're right. Their guard play is just too stacked. They're big men. You could do it too pretty easily, I think. But yeah, there's just too many guard weapons that you'd have to try to slow down as well. I don't know. Like you said, it's hard to get into these series. I mean, one, they don't matter because it's all about if they can beat Golden State, which, depending on how these teams play, they're capable, so that'll be more interesting. But it's also just like I can't get a feel for it. I'd say go big and go on, if I was the Spurs, go play inside more, but that really doesn't work in the NBA anymore. I don't know if Aldridge can post up consistently or Pau Gasol to slow down and to, it's just not something you see in the NBA, so I'm not even sure if teams are capable or if the NBA allows you to play more interior basketball.
Well, moving on to the other game of the night, we had the Raptors and the Cavs face off. Cavs take this one fairly handily, despite a few good efforts by the Raptors to make comebacks. It seemed like every time the Raptors tried to get back in this one, the Cavs sort of went on a run and sort of extended the lead out. They ended up winning by 11. So, Rob, what were your takes from this game?
Just more of the NBA's up until they get to the championship is kind of a poor product. I'm watching highlights now, and Kyrie throwing the ball off the backboard to LeBron. I mean, you don't see that outside of All-Star games. This is, and this was in our NBA playoff breakdown. This was the series where I was like, I don't at any point think Cleveland will lose any series up until the championship series, but I thought this would be the one series that they'd have the hardest time with, meaning maybe 6 hard games, 5 hard games, really hard. But it doesn't look like it. Toronto just doesn't even look like they really have the ability or the belief that they can run with Cleveland. To me, it looked like Cleveland was in control the whole game. There's a few nice runs. I think the closest I ever saw it was 7 points, but it just never felt like that was a real threat and then almost immediately, it wasn't even like they hit a big basket. It was like 3 or 4 big plays in a row, and the lead was back to double digits. I don't know. I thought this would be a little bit closer. I thought PJ Tucker and Serge Ibaka being added to Toronto gave them some extra defense, and both are solid like open shot hitters, open jump shot hitters, 3-point hitters. So they on the offense they wouldn't hurt you to have in the game.
Yeah.
So I thought they'd give them a lot more struggle, but it just honestly it looked like Toronto didn't think they should be there. Cleveland looked like they were just having fun, and everyone talked about the 8-game layoff, which really irritates me as far because the 8-game like rust factor isn't like a team coming out and forgetting how to play the game. It's coming out and dealing with a more aggressive, maybe more in the flow team, and the team that had the layoff is struggling to keep up with that intensity, and they're just you're just a little behind, you're a little off on your jump shots, not because but there's no chance if Cleveland looked as comfortable as they did. They looked so comfortable. It looked like at no point they were being stressed as far as on how they were being defended or how they're being pushed on the defensive end with Toronto's offense. They look comfortable, and I don't care how many days you have off. If you're comfortable like that, if you're playing easy, free-flowing basketball or football, whatever sport it is, after a layoff, it doesn't matter if you had the layoff. They're still super professional athletes getting paid millions of dollars to do what they do. So Toronto didn't challenge them at all, and I think that's going to continue. I did not see much of a spark of life,
I gotta speak to Dwayne Casey's rotation in this one. Like just looking at the box score and looking at the minutes, I don't understand why you're still playing DeMarre Carroll and Jonas Valanciunas. I mean, if the first round proved anything, it's that you're not getting much out of these two guys. It's like you're taking away minutes from Patrick Patterson and PJ Tucker, who are both playing relatively well. Poor shooting night from Patrick Patterson, but I think he was giving you a lot more than you've gotten from DeMarre Carroll on the defensive end.
Yeah.
Norman Powell, a poor shooting night for him as well, but he still, while he wasn't efficient with it, put up 12 points in only 21 minutes. You saw him, the two of them started to spark a run sort of in the fourth quarter. They had an 8-0 run, a couple back-to-back threes by Norman Powell, followed by a long two by Patrick Patterson, and it looked like, okay, this is the Raptors who led the NBA in fourth quarter comebacks. It looked like they were about to pull it off again, but Valanciunas, I don't know what he provides you. He's a big man who isn't particularly. He's not getting in there banging inside. He's not grabbing a ton of rebounds. Only 6 in his 21 minutes. He provides you 6 points. He's not stopping Kevin Love or Tristan Thompson. The only thing stopping Kevin Love last night in that game was the fact that he wanted to just shoot threes the whole time.
Yeah, that's gonna be their biggest. That's gonna be the Cleveland's biggest downfall if they have one. Is Kevin Love never plays as well as he does in the regular season in the playoffs, and it's because he gets more and more relegated to shooting threes instead of getting inside and getting some rebounds for the team and putbacks and some strength inside. But that's a really, really good point. I didn't really think of it watching it because I have a really hard time, and I hate to sound like the old man in a rocking chair, spraying kids on my lawn, but I have a hard time not seeing a big man who's bigger than everybody and thinking okay, keep him out there, let him, he's bigger, get that ball in the post. That doesn't exist. So I don't know why I think like that. And it's probably a time for Toronto to reevaluate kind of maybe who they're starting and who they're giving the bulk of these minutes to, and start maybe spreading out, because Patterson's a much better jump shooter, 3-point shooter. Serge Ibaka can stretch, and he goes inside and gets rebounds, block shots. So you're not really giving up defensive interior defense when Valanciunas isn't in. So maybe it's time. And honestly, they need to do something. I think they've, I don't think anybody would disagree if I said the last two series that Cleveland and Toronto have played. Maybe not. Maybe even 3. I can't remember if they played 3 years ago. It's not really been a threat. I know they went 6 games last year, but I watched a lot of that series because I thought, this is Toronto's year maybe, and it doesn't look like, it kind of reminds me of when the Lakers played the Kings way back in the day before the Sacramento Kings picked up Mike Bibby. They could compete a little, but you just never thought that the Kings could beat the Lakers, and that's how I feel about this. So I think maybe it's time to do something drastic and insert maybe Patterson to the starting lineup. Maybe go even smaller and insert Norman Powell in the starting lineup, and
that's what I'm thinking. Something. Like maybe you go Powell at the 3 and just commit to absolute small ball. Like maybe you put Tucker at the small ball 4. It's like because it's clear like these are the guys who deserve the minutes. I mean, Patterson and Norman Powell weren't shooting the ball well, but they were giving you a lot more in other facets of the game than Carroll and Valanciunas. And PJ Tucker, he was having a solid ball game. Led you in rebounding actually. Like
well, he's like the perfect player to play a 4, like an undersized 4. Because he's big and tough, and he'll get in there. If they start dumping the ball to Kevin Love against him, and you see how that works out, you can make a change. But it doesn't seem like Kevin Love really cares about getting in the post. So I don't know why you wouldn't try to make that change and just see how it goes. Because I don't think there's a chance. I don't think they have a chance to win more than a game if they don't change something up. And when you see LeBron that comfortable, Kyrie that comfortable, you're not going to beat them. They got to feel some pressure, whether it's defensively or the other team scoring enough that LeBron's shooting more threes than you'd want to see him, or Kyrie's one-on-oneing more than you want to see him. Stuff like that, like get them out of their fun flow where they're both running up and down, nice passes. Everything's in rhythm. These awesome off the backboard dunks and stuff. Like you could just tell that they were playing so free, and they felt no worry about what was going on.
So Rob, this is the first time I've had you on since the second round started, and I just wanted to bring up the point that in both the East and the West we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 all advance in the first round, with the exception of the Jazz, I think, who were tied with the Clippers for the 4th or 5th seed. But like realistically, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4 all advance in the first round. So it begins to beg the question: why have the first round when when was the time a 5 seed or lower actually won a championship?
Oh my God, that would be. You have to get our research guy on that because I
don't think it's ever happened.
I couldn't even. I mean, I'm sure it's happened at some point, but I couldn't even.
I honestly do not think it's happening. Like typically, you don't see anything less than a 2 seed win the championship. So then, why do we have 3 rounds of playoffs if there's no possibility? It's like I don't know if you listened to the show yesterday, but we had Andy on talking NHL playoffs pretty in depth, and we were talking about the drastic differences. How in the NHL you have 2 of the bottom seeds out west pulled off first round upsets. You had what essentially amounts to the 7 and 8 seed upset the 1 and 2 seed, and that's not something you ever see in the NBA.
Yeah, I mean, it's absolutely true. And I wouldn't even. We'd have to look in to see, even to see how many lower ranked seeds have just won a playoff series in the last 5 to 10 years. I'd have to research because I can't really think of many off the top of my head. I would agree, and the more that we move to this run and gun, huge money contracts where players, it's really not hard to sign the team you want as long as players want to be there. And we're getting these more and more super teams, and now it sounds like we're going to start getting like the level 3 super teams. Paul George is going to team up with some other mid-level star, and they're not, the more that happens, the more that the 5 through 8 teams are going to be completely irrelevant, and they should. And I get like you're making money for those teams, and that's what it's probably more about for the NBA is that revenue, getting more games on TV, and then the teams get to host at least 2 extra home games. But it's bad for basketball. The first round was barely watchable, and this round is gonna not be much better. I'll watch a little bit more because it should be a little bit better, but as a basketball fan, I don't even recognize like what I'm watching because I mean, at least back in the day, you probably didn't need all 8 teams, but it was still fun to watch almost every series. I don't remember being like bored out of my mind watching the Hornets play the Knicks, in the first round, because the Hornets with Larry Johnson and Muggsy and Alonzo could compete a little better than, I don't know, Giannis Nakamatoko by himself.
I just looked it up. Once as an 8 seed made the finals, twice as a 6 seed, and twice as a 4 seed. None of them have ever won.
Yeah, that's crazy, to be honest. I really thought there'd be some outlier.
And then from that, you have only 1 8 seed has made the conference finals. 1 7 seed has made a conference finals. You got about 4 6 seeds have made a conference finals. 4 5 seeds and 3 4 seeds.
That's funny, because that's something you never hear talk about. Talk about why we should do this show. That's like a fantastic thing that you never hear talked about. I mean, it's probably because these networks, have deals with the NBA. They don't want to make it. They don't want to push how boring their games are going to probably be. They're really only thing. I mean, I would be totally game getting rid of the first round, eliminating 8 teams from the playoffs.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's just too much money involved.
Yeah, it's not going to happen, but it would be.
That's why I have no shame saying I didn't watch this game, or I'm just reading the box score or whatever. It's because I'm trying to let people know these games are not worth our time to watch.
Yeah, no, you banged on it pretty hard when with the draft first, watching the NBA playoffs, and you're not wrong. Honestly, those numbers, as someone who's watched basketball and the NBA pretty heavily my whole life, I've never thought about that. And maybe it's because it was a little more competitive, like I said, when I was a kid, but that is shocking to me. That they need, I mean, they need to change something, because it's only going to hurt. Eventually, it's going to hurt them. I mean, people aren't going to keep watching this garbage for.
Yeah, it just seems to me like if you're anything lower than a 2 seed, you have no legitimate shot at winning a title.
That is wild that it's so low for 3 or 4 seeds too. I just would have never guessed that, because you would think. But I guess, I mean, I was thinking while you were probably researching, it's Michael Jordan for 6 years, the Lakers for a bunch of years. I mean, all these teams, I remember being 1 seeds, in their respective conferences.
And every now and then, they'll slip up towards the end and be a 2 seed, and they'll that's pretty
caring.
Much it.
They only do that happens, because they stop caring, and the team that thinks they can beat them, like the Kings or the Pacers or something, if we get home court, we can do this, and it's just it's not true a lot. It's crazy to think about when I think about it now, how it's just such a rare thing. And I don't know. I mean, at least those series are fun to watch. The 1 and 2s go at it usually. The 3s and 1s and 3s, but the first round at this point is, I haven't watched a full series, and I can't tell you how long. So it tells you.
Even the Jazz and Lakers. I'm sorry, Jazz and Clippers. That was probably the least interested in a Game 7 I've ever been. I really did not care. I had it on a little bit because it's a Game 7. But
Game 7, yeah.
At the end of the day, it was not entertaining in the least bit. So
yeah,
I did not. But I wanted to, and this is last topic on the NBA I wanted to bring up. I was sitting back thinking yesterday, the Jazz they sort of give me an '04 Pistons vibe to a certain extent. And I wanted to get your thoughts on that. It's like not a superstar among the group, like really, other than arguably Gordon Hayward, but I wouldn't say he's even like maybe he's a top 15 player. I think he's certainly top 20, but I don't think I'd put him top 15.
Yeah.
But how much of this team reminds you of that squad? And can we see an '04 like Pistons run out of the Jazz?
It's an interesting comparison. I mean, they're the top defensive team in NBA, obviously. Not anywhere near what the Pistons were. I don't think they're even remotely close to like the level.
I don't think you can do what the '04 Pistons did in today's NBA.
And I would only other thing I'd be concerned about is I don't know if they have. Yeah, maybe if they keep this team together and they don't try to go sign like Dwight Howard out or whatever people do these days to like sign.
I don't think Dwight Howard is not what people do these days.
I don't. That's just, for some reason he's always that name when I think of like the fake super teams. Like he seems to be a part of like every fake super team. Like we got the Lakers got Dwight Howard and they're like bad, and then like Houston got and like they're just much better without so that's just like it's a cheap shot at Dwight Howard, and I'm sorry, like I don't even dislike him. He just gets put on every fake super team and they don't do well. But so like I don't know if they just keep this team. But the one concern I would have is they don't have like the big shot makers. They have Joe Johnson, but I don't see him like a Chauncey Billups or a really underrated for me on that team was Rip Hamilton. I think he more than big shot like Chauncey hit. It was just a consistent offensive power when they kind of struggled. You'd run him off screens, and he was rock solid. Rock solid when you needed points scored. And I don't know if they have that like rock solid. Golden State's going on a 8-0 run. We need a basket, and it doesn't mean go 1-on-1. It means run a play for a rock solid guy who's not going to be afraid to take the shot, take it, And Gordon Hayward is, I think, a year or two away from being able to take that shot with confidence. Joe Johnson's right there. He's just a little older than a lot of those. It's interesting. I also don't even know if it matters because they're going to run into a team that. Golden State.
I'm just saying, exist. You look at the 2004 Lakers, and that was certainly a comparable team to what the Warriors have. I mean, you had Shaq Diesel in his prime. You had Kobe emerging as one of the greatest of all time. You had Karl Malone and Gary Payton, albeit in the sort of latter half of their career. It was one of the first real super teams we ever saw. Now, we don't necessarily think about it in that way because they didn't win a title, but it was sort of the first time we saw like a big four.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. I was gonna get to because I knew obviously that's the first thing I thought. I knew you're gonna ask me about that. And the only reason I think it's different, like Golden State versus the Lakers, if the Lakers were still playing in the old NBA where, I mean, they're kind of in the middle of the transition, but there was still Shaq in the post. Kobe, I mean, he shot some threes, but more of a 2-point shooter. And Ben Wallace was the perfect, slow down defender for a Shaq. And Shaq probably still had a decent series, but he didn't have. And now now that all you people do is shoot threes, a ton of jump shots. I don't think Utah can slow that down as well as the Pistons were equipped to slow down a Karl Malone who was older, but mainly a post player or 15-foot in player, and then Shaq who was only a post player. They were really well equipped with Rasheed Wallace and Ben Wallace, and then they brought off, I don't know, they had a big dumb guy off the bench, didn't they? A big kind of center to throw at Shaq off the bench.
Eldon Campbell.
Yeah, they're equipped, and Utah, I don't know if they're equipped to defensively to stop what Golden State. I also that Pistons team, I didn't even like them. You know that. You've made fun of me. They were something.
Love that team.
We'll never see it again. I was, as a basketball fan, just blown away by what that team could do defensively to anybody that they played.
This just may be me wanting an interesting storyline, at least one, like just grasping for one where there really isn't one. But, and I'll fully admit that. But I just thought the comparison needed to be made, and I think it's pretty apropos here.
It's
Like,
interesting. I don't see it being like a wrong because they're both really good defensive and there are no stars and they're doing really well. I'm just concerned that we're going to see a 4-1 beat down and then we'll be like, oh, never mind. 'Cause I don't know who won't get 4-1 beat down by Golden State except for like Cleveland or maybe a Houston.
But if it happens, I'm not gonna be shocked by it.
I would love like Utah's a team I really like, so I'd love to see them do well. But.
Yeah. Well, last night in the NHL, the Capitals they avoid going down 3-0. Take the 3-2 win over the Penguins. Sidney Crosby took a really hard check in this one and did not come back in the game. So we'll see what happens going forward with him. If he's not able to come back, this could drastically change this series, and we could see it swing back the other way for the Capitals. I know Andy called that on yesterday's show. Not the Crosby injury, but definitely the Caps win. Elsewhere, we got injuries by Noah Syndergaard. According to some people, he's got a partial tear in his lat, and he's going to be out for months. So the Mets were struggling a bit with him, and anytime you lose the ace of your staff, that's the sort of the blow that can take a team down a peg, and gonna be hard for the Mets going forward. Not having Thor in the rotation. Rob's sitting there wondering who we're all talking about right now.
I am currently on ESPN reading a little bit about it, just so I could mainly ask you questions about it because I don't want to embarrass myself. But anyone that just knows baseball knows you lose a player that's the number one person in your rotation. It changes a lot about your team, and it changes the outlook. I was curious. I was just reading here if you heard that the GM is the one. Is it the GM here? Oh, the general manager came out and said it was his decision to play Syndergaard, even though there'd been no MRI. So. Like, how do you feel?
Yeah, I heard something. There was something weird with that whole situation. I heard something to the effect like he skipped the MRI, and the GM can't even set out like I can't strap him down and make him go through the tube myself. I don't know what's going on with all that. From what everyone's saying, he's only on the 10-day DL. But many say this is an injury. It's going to take him months. I've heard months to come back from. And for a guy who is an all-star caliber pitcher, and he's only 24 years old. This could be pretty devastating for the Mets. They were already struggling. Looking at the standings here, they were already 6 back of the Nationals, who have one of the best rotations in the National League in their own regard. Syndergaard was only helping you keep pace a little bit with that, and without him, this is a team who's negative 23 in run differential. This could be doom and gloom for the Mets. I know they were trying to move Matt Harvey, who's been injured the past few years himself, but he looked like the heir apparent before he got hurt, and then Syndergaard sort of took over that ace role. But now without him in the rotation, I don't know what you're doing with Matt Harvey. I don't know if you can afford to move him now.
Right. I was Yeah, I was just thinking, and especially this this specific case, like reading about it just now. What do you feel like? When will teams? And this is as a baseball guy, so I would love to hear if I'm just sounding stupid but when are teams gonna learn with their pitchers, no matter what age, not doesn't matter if they're 24 and young and spry or older. When are they going to learn if there's a reason to be cautious to be cautious?
Yeah.
And I don't get I feel like every year.
I feel like on a team by team basis, it's very it's very torn. Some teams are very overly cautious. Some teams aren't cautious enough. I don't know.
Doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
It seems to me like this happens less. I think the Mets are more the exception than the rule.
Okay. Yeah, the only other example, and again, maybe there's more, I don't know, but is every year it seems like the guy from Washington, Strasburg.
Yeah.
And I don't, and like I said, I don't know enough about it to say for sure. Like they knew they could cut it back on his innings or starts or something. But I mean, I just feel like in this specific case, especially, like I don't know what they were doing. If there was something and there's an MRI, I don't know if he skipped it or what. But like, why would you? I would not let him play.
I don't know what's going on with all that. It's extremely weird, but.
Oh yeah.
So one last thing before we get out, Rob, what do you make of what Michigan has to do to replace the 11 players drafted in the NFL draft just this past weekend?
Man, I was proud as a Michigan fan. They, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they had the most players drafted over Alabama. It was like 11 to 10 or something.
Yeah.
Awesome to hear Michigan back in that sentence because that's not something you've really heard lately in the Michigan area. We don't put as many people in the pros as we used to. To replace them, it's I hate to be that guy, but it's in Harbaugh we trust. He's got to develop some talent. I know he's brought some in. I know he took a lot of people still who are Harbaugh haters, Michigan haters, say that was a lot of Brady Hoke talent, but anyone that pretends like he didn't take what Brady Hoke had almost ruined and turn them into elite level defensive players are fooling themselves because that's absolutely what him and his defensive staff did. I don't know, man. Like I don't worry about Michigan now that Harbaugh's there. That is the most opposite thing you could say as a Michigan fan with the last couple of coaches. I think he will develop his talent. I think he's brought in good talent. I'm not really nervous. They're going to definitely take a step back, I would imagine, from a team that had Jabril Peppers and Taco Charlton and Jordan Lewis and some of the best players in the country on defense. But I'm not nervous. He mixes it up. He goes to Rome. I think that's by far been the biggest college football talk of the offseason. It's such an amazing trip. I guarantee you there's prospects. There's young guys looking like, what? Like, this is what Harbaugh's doing at Michigan. I guarantee you there's coaches everywhere going, what are we? Like, we got to figure out something to kind of counterbalance what Harbaugh brings. And then, like I said, I think the biggest thing is not even his recruiting. It's that he brought in people on his defensive staff and offensive staff that are good at developing talent, because that's what Michigan used to do. That's what great teams do. Chad Henne was a 5-star, but he played like a 5-star. Mike Hart was a 3-star, and he played like a 5-star. Their offensive linemen over the years, back in the day, they were never out like the biggest names, but they developed offensive linemen kind of like Wisconsin does now. So I think it's just about developing talent. And I'm really excited. I didn't see the spring game. I wish I had sat down and watched it or went to it. But come, I guess, August, when I want to see it, because I think there's going to be names I don't know because I don't follow recruiting as closely. But, I mean, Rashawn Gary's going to be a monster.
I kind of forgot about the spring game, too, and it was on such a nice day.
Yeah, it would have been.
Could have went easily.
I wish we would have thought about one of us, because, like, if you had told me, I would have been down. Like, I would have went that day with you, unless I worked. I didn't. But I think it'll be a team next year. We're going to learn a lot of new names, and they're going to be very good defensive players. But at least I'll learn because new names. Because like I said, I didn't follow recruiting as closely, so there'll be players.
ESPN's current way too early rankings have them as the number 14 team in the nation, and Michigan's biggest rival, Ohio State, at number 1.
I don't know. I don't think that's a
Florida State, Alabama, USC, and Penn State round out the top 5.
I just gotta say real quick that even in May, with it raining, talking about college football gives me tingles, man. I'm glad you brought that. That just excited me. Like, I'm ready for some college football to kick off. I'm done with the NBA, and the draft is over. So, but I think I'm always pumped. I think
still got a long way to go.
I know it's going to be hard. I think Michigan will be fine. I think they'll be right there in the top of the Big Ten with Ohio State, and I think it'll come down to Michigan, Ohio State, like it did last year and the year before. So,
I don't know. Penn State might have something to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
so will Wisconsin.
Like
it's always the thing, like that whole division between Penn State, like Michigan State, like, all being in the same division. Like it's never made sense to me.
It doesn't make sense. It's it's ridiculous, but yeah, I'm probably just being a slappy. But I think Michigan will be fine. I think Harbaugh is like absolutely as good a coach as most people say he is. I think they'll be good, and his staff is literally a pro staff walking around with him. So I think they'll be fine. Like,
one more thing before we get out of here. It seems, actually 2 more things. I want to bring this up too. Cincinnati TV station urges a boycott of the Bengals after they draft Joe Mixon. For reasons I got into last week, I don't see the whole Joe Mixon boycott thing taking off too much. I think people honestly just forget after a while. As sad as that is, and what that says about us as a society, I'm not going to get into, but I think it's just what is going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's kind of foolish to pretend like that's going to happen even, or try.
There's going to be a few more of these, more than likely, and I don't see them going anywhere. But more of a football story. The Vikings have told Teddy Bridgewater they're not going to exercise his 2018 option. So, Teddy Bridgewater coming off a billion surgeries, it feels like. That's the approximate number, right?
It's close.
After all those surgeries, it seems he's going to hit the open market. What do you think, like, the market for a Teddy Bridgewater is? A guy who was thought to be an up-and-comer in this league, but obviously the injuries now. What do you make of this?
That's a really hard situation for him, and I do feel bad for him. There is 2 things going for him. One, he was a talented player, up and coming with the same team, and then he was at a team where that he just fit in. It was just a good fit, and that's sometimes all it takes for a player to thrive, is to get that right team where the defense, as good as it is, and how they run, and the offense and the talent around him, and the type of talent it is. And it seemed like it was all just meshing for him that last year before he got injured. It looked like he was going to maybe have a breakout year. The injury is a really severe injury. I mean, quarterbacks are king in the NFL, so he's going to get an opportunity. I just don't know, if he falls into the wrong fit, if the Browns jump on him and they're still, not as good offensively or on the offensive line, he might just have 8 bad games, and then people will kind of say, never mind, it was a flash in the pan. Or I think there'll be a market, and I really hope him well. I always liked Teddy Bridgewater in college. I thought he was a good, great quarterback for Louisville, a good representative. Like, he seemed like a really good dude, good guy. Worked hard to achieve what he did. So I'm hoping it works. And I see a market for him. He'll probably lose a lot of money and have to sign for a much smaller contract, to get on a roster. And but I think he'll definitely start, or at least get a chance to start again somewhere. And it just depends on the situation that he's in, because I'm not sure he's like a transcendent quarterback where he can go anywhere and he's going to be able to lead the team and or make that offense better. I think he might be more of a good quarterback in the right fit. So hopefully he lands at a good play. I don't know. Like I watched him with the Vikings and was never like super impressed. I thought he was good. I don't know how you felt about him at the Vikings.
Yeah, I think hey, if you're a talented quarterback in the league, I think there's always a spot for you. But one last thing before we get out of here, and I think I've said that about 3 or 4 times now, but
Definitely like the fourth time.
Draymond Green says the Warriors are approaching the playoffs as if Steve Kerr isn't coming back. The team would be led by Mike Brown in that instance. Looking forward, presuming the Warriors go on and win the title without Steve Kerr and Mike Brown ends up being the coach to do it, what do you think the coaching market is like for him if he goes on, wins the title, and he's an assistant head coach, and somebody's going to be looking to pay a top dollar, right, Rob?
I would hope. Mike Brown's always been a good coach. I think he took a lot of flack for, not getting a LeBron team as far as he could, or LeBron didn't maybe like him. I never really understood that situation. I think people give LeBron all the credit always when he's on whatever team. So no one gave Mike Brown any credit for that team doing well, even though he did, with LeBron, drag a pretty subpar team to the finals. I mean, like Zydrunas Ilgauskas and Larry Hughes aren't good running mates for any team. And then it's going to be the same situation. People aren't going to even give him a lot of credit, I guarantee. Like, I probably won't give him enough credit if he wins the championship with this roster. But he should definitely be a head coach, I think, and hopefully he gets paid top dollar. There's a ton of teams that I think could use some good leadership as a coach who could play better. And a good coach isn't the difference between, I think, winning a championship and not, but I think it's the difference between being one of those bottom 5 to 8 seed teams that no one at all cares about, and me and you don't even want to see in the playoffs, or like a 2 through 3 team, 4 team that can make some noise, maybe scare Cleveland or whoever is good down the road. So hopefully he gets a shot at a team, and I think he'll do well wherever he lands. I think he's a good coach. I've never had any issues with Mike Brown.
Okay. Anything else you wanted to bring up before we get out of here, Rob?
No, man. I think we covered everything. I did see, I don't know, they're talking a lot about that Adam Jones dealing with like all the racial stuff at Fenway. I just want people at Fenway to lock it up. It's 2017, guys. You need to calm down. That was the only thing that we didn't bring up that was kind of all over ESPN and Fox Sports. So.
Well, that about wraps it up. I want to thank everyone for watching and listening. Thanks for coming on today, Rob.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
It's been another fun day. Had a lot of fun doing the show. Want to, like I said, thank everyone for watching and listening. And we'll be back tomorrow with more Direct Sports Daily.
This has been another episode of Direct Sports Daily. Thanks for listening. And to keep up with the show, follow us on Twitter at the DSD Podcast. Subscribe to us on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher Radio. Or visit our website, www.directsportsdaily.com.